Welcome to another episode of Some Real Shit Podcast. I am your host, Stacy, and I'm here with Joseph Lenard, or will be here with Joseph Lenard, who is the author of Terror Strikes, coming to a theater near you, and also he just wrote a new book. So Joseph is here to talk about that new book. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, it's actually good afternoon for me.
Right, exactly. So I was just giving you an intro to the your older book, and now you've just started a newer book. And so we're here to kind of talk about a little bit about your journey with this new book, because you wrote it so quickly, and which I'm surprised, because I have my book and I'm taking forever and a day to write mine.
Yeah, well, you were a big part of how I was able to write it so quickly, and we'll get into that.
I gave you the blueprint because I had so many questions. Yeah. So do you so tell us a little bit about your background, and just for people who haven't watched the two shows that we had, because you've been on two episodes.
Yes, you've been so gracious to me, and I really appreciate this third bite at the apple, as they would say.
No, it's awesome. I love having you on the show. We can talk forever.
Yeah, well, yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen those other ones, I'm Joseph M. Lenard. It looks like Lenard, but it's not French. It's Leonard, but with no O in it, Lenard. And I have to use my middle initial M because there's a Joseph Lenard that's an author out of North Carolina, whereas I am in the Detroit, Michigan area, a southern suburb. Most of my working background has been in information technology, but I've been writing my entire life, including music, poetry, short stories, novels. But Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, despite having all those other copyrights, was my first internationally published book. So, people will everywhere can and will see that one and not necessarily know that it's clearly not my first book, not my first rodeo, as they say, right?
Right.
And when I've been on podcasts to discuss Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, often, like you did, a host would say, "Will you come back and just discuss the writing and publishing process?" And I was, of course, happy to do that. But that then spurred in my brain, even though I had other books going on to write, I should put those aside and write how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques as my next book, because there's clearly a market for it because people are asking me. And like I said, you helped me to shortcut the writing because I use one of the cheats that I outline in how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques, of using something you already have to put in your current book, whether it be a blog like the cheat I used in Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, or podcast interviews like I do in How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints, Tips, and Techniques. I was able to take the podcast with you and three others, have them transcribed, and therefore I already had questions and my answers that I then cut and pasted sections of those interviews into the chapters that then dealt with those topics. I'm going to turn around here, not to turn my back on the video, but I want to grab my table of contents here and outline. It opens with a foreword about the book, about the author, and a for starters kind of continue to what the book's about and why I wrote it. And then the first thing, your story outline, a table of contents outline chapter, a research chapter, a character development chapter, scene development, deadlines and contracts, publishing options, outsourcing, forward outline, editing, formatting and typesetting, cover design, which is very important because people do judge your book by its cover. If you don't grab them with your cover, you're not selling any books. Marketing, like we're doing right now, right? After you've released your book, you ain't done.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just starting a new phase. And then even a chapter on reviews, just to touch on it, how to start getting some, what to expect from them. You're bound to get some negative Nellies out there. Not everybody's going to like you personally, so they may attack you personally rather than your book, or they may not like your style of writing. You've got to learn to take that in stride. If you've got thin skin, don't go there. You don't even bother to look at reviews. But unless you have dozens of people all saying the same thing, unless they're clear, again, ad hominem personal attacks about you, don't worry about them.
Right.
But if dozens of people say the same thing, then you may want to learn from them for your next book. And then there's a behind the book and an afterward. So I felt it probably important to go through that table of contents to give everyone an overview of what is in how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques. So I share my journey of bringing Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You to international publishing journey with you so that you can, if you're a writer and aspiring to become published, maybe improve your writing a bit, like with the character development, scene development chapters, whether you're writing a fiction book, a nonfiction book, a self-help book, a memoir, whatever. This book can help you bring that to the world and share what you have in you with others, because there is a market for everything. There are other how to write a book and get it published on Amazon specifically, books in general. But those are narrow focused books of how to just put something on Amazon, supposedly for free, but like I go into and how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques, it isn't really free. You're paying other people for other things already. So you may as well, in my opinion, put that money into an assisted publishing firm, as I call them, rather than just self-publishing. So those are narrow focused. I wanted a bigger book, but again, not too big so that it wouldn't cost a lot. I could still price it like those other books, but you get so much more value for your money with my book as opposed to their narrow focused books.
So, Joseph, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur at this point? Because you have to, do you actually just consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Well, I suppose in some sense of the word, any published author is to a degree an entrepreneur. You are operating in a business sense and bringing a product to people, but beyond just opening a corner store and selling widgets, you're trying to deliver an important message to people, or at least I hope you are with what you're writing. I hope, if that's you, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and knock yourself out. Just write something silly. Now, if you want to write something silly, I would suggest try a children's book. They can be silly, but still have morals and values worthy of bringing to the public, because nowadays there's a whole lot of children's book with other agendas than letting kids be kids and teaching them positive values, instead warping their minds. But look at the show Seinfeld, as I said, right? A show about nothing. If you want to write a book, a Seinfeld-like book, a book about nothing, go right ahead. Like I said, there's a market for everything.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So when you wrote this book, what was your process? I mean, I guess you kind of explained it, how, you took the three of the podcasts but what was your process going into it? Like, what was your whole day-to-day activity?
Well, again, and that's the point of this book, is to outline the process for people. And you have to start with an idea, obviously, a concept. And that was brought forth by you and others as a podcaster, that people want to learn more about writing and publishing.
Well, let me clarify the question. Let me rephrase it. So, like, when you're doing your writing, is it like, what's your daily routine? Are you just getting up and first thing in the morning before you already popped up and you're just writing, like nonstop writing, like you don't even see the day of light, you're just writing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And let me give one more line of where I was going.
Gotcha.
Before you rephrase the question, because this book is also for not just aspiring writers who want to become published, but anybody that's curious about behind the scenes of what writers do, what they go through to become published. Now, as for like my writing process itself, I go into this in the book. It's going to be different for everybody, obviously. I've been on Social Security disability since 2004. I have a myriad of health issues. So I'm not able to work a regular, 9 to 5 or 3 to 11 or a midnight shift job. So for me, the process is simple. Whenever I'm inspired, any time of the morning, noon, or night, I can just sit in front of the computer and let the words flow. That's not going to work for most people, obviously, but that is my process. For most people, and I do go into this and how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques. One of the hints or tips is to, wherever you are and you get an inspiration, dig out your smartphone. And if you don't have a smartphone, carry a small pad of paper and a pen with you to jot things down. But with a smartphone, have an email app on your phone and email yourself an email. And in the body, use your speech to text, your Siri or your Google Assistant or whatever, to dictate what you're hearing in your head needs to be said in your book. Dictate that into an email and send it to yourself. Now, speech to text, AI isn't perfect. You're going to have some wrong words in there. You're going to have atrocious punctuation, especially if you say a name, it may put the wrong name in so you'll have things then you'll have to clean up from that. But while the inspiration hit you, you'll have gotten it down so you don't forget it. And when you have the time to sit down, you have something that you've pre-made that came to you as an inspiration to then cut and paste into either your story outline or a chapter if you're further along in the process. But the first step is to do a detailed story outline that I'll eventually go into in the book. The very chapter called Your Story Outline. But yeah, once you cut and paste something you've dictated, you start to clean it up. That is likely to trigger additional inspiration. So you're not sitting down cold in front of a computer or grabbing a yellow pad of paper. And I suggest, if you like to write it out by hand, that you still do it in Microsoft Word from the get-go, because you eventually have to get it from your paper to digital form to submit to the publisher. So you may as well start right from the start doing that. And that's an obvious hint in the book. So clean up your inspiration that will inspire other things at whatever designated set aside time you have for writing your book, rather than sitting down cold at the computer. There may be days that you do that. If you haven't dictated something that came to you as an inspiration before, and you say, okay, I'm going to sit down and write every Saturday between noon and 6 p.m. All right, for whatever, just as a out of thin air example. If you dictated yourself something on Wednesday, you grab that, you clean it up, it'll inspire more things. But if you sitting down cold at the computer, that's obviously the worst way to do it. But if you set aside that time, keep that time, maintain I don't want to say habit, but a schedule, right? Maintain that schedule, that commitment that you made to this process. And perhaps if you're just staring at the blank page, you need to go back to your story outline. That's the point of doing it, rereading through it, and then hopefully something of your story outline then says, okay, let me expound upon that. Now, I can do that without having to think too much, or expounding upon something you already have in there, which again, then is likely to trigger more inspiration.
Wow. I'm taking notes. Don't think I'm not listening.
You don't have to take notes now. You've got the book to be able to have with all this information in there.
Well, yeah, I have the Terror Strikes book, so now I'm gonna have to get the other book too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could put those together and see, like, compare the two and be like, okay, I see where he was going with this part and with this part.
And you raise I don't mean to interrupt you, but you raise an important point. And I say this in How to Write a Book and Get It Published, hints, tips, and techniques. If you don't have a copy of Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, after you've read How to Write a Book and Get It Published, hints, tips, and techniques, I suggest, and this isn't just a motivation to try to make more sales for Terror Strikes, but I suggest you do buy a copy of Terror Strikes and read it, because you get to then see what I'm suggesting in the How to Write a Book, how I applied it practically in my Terror Strikes book.
Yeah.
Right? Plus, you've read Terror Strikes. You know it's about Martin, who sets out to write his own book on terrorism. So Terror Strikes itself has a set of hints, tips, and techniques of how to write within it based on following Martin.
Yeah.
So there's a value to actually considering these companion pieces.
Oh yeah, definitely it is. What was your biggest obstacle?
Oh, money.
Everybody's biggest obstacle.
Right, because HarperCollins was not interested in signing me as one of their, up and coming authors and willing to put their money behind my books. So I had to put my own money behind my books through the assisted publishing methodology. But that's an important point. I think we discussed that during the interview we did on about writing and publishing. The times have changed. the only way was to get an established publisher. You write a book, print off copies, mail it to all the publishers, and hope, kind of like the movie where the crawdash fish or whatever that movie is. You know the one I'm talking about?
Where the crawdads swim or
Thing,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
That
so.
movie is the old traditional way. A sub theme in that movie, if you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen it.
it's a great movie. It's kind of slow, but
Okay.
it's a great movie in the old To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn style of movie making.
Oh, okay.
So I love that movie. It's fantastic. But the main character is somewhat artistic, and people suggest to her she should put her illustrations in a book. So she does eventually do that. Spoiler alert, right? She does do that. She copies her illustrations and sends them to publishers in hopes that one of them will pick her up. Well, today you could still try that, but your odds are nil. The established publishers want to stick with their established authors, except for, like, in a rare case of when a J.K. Rowling comes along who has a whole series of books ready to go. Known quantities they want, people that they know they're going to sell pretty much X number of books. The Stephen Kings, the James Pattersons, the Tom Clancy's, the J.K. Rowlings now, they know their investment is immediately going to be returned, and then a whole lot more on top of that. We don't have that option usually, unless if you're that rare case to get picked up. So assisted publishing, as I call the higher end ones, or the lower end self-publishing firms, are our option now. Just like in music, I think we mentioned this on a previous show. I recorded music when I was younger. My father was the founder of the Polka Kings band. They have 3 albums, which it kind of is where I have the creative gene from. Well, back then, you had to write music, you had to perform places, you had to record yourself, you had to send those tapes to, record companies and hope one would sign you. Well, the same thing in music as with publishing, right? Now anybody can record music on a laptop, immediately upload it to the internet, and sell their songs direct for 99 cents. Self-publishing gives you that option now for writing.
Okay. And all of this is in your book, which is awesome. I can't wait, because I really, like you said, I don't have the money for all of that. So
yeah. Well, before we go too much further, before we forget, I want to mention to your audience, and I appreciate you having me on again so quickly here in January, because I have a giveaway for January for 20 Kindle copies, free copies. Enter to win How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints, Tips, and Techniques. 20 Kindle versions giving away. There's already been like 500 entrants in the contest through Goodreads. And I created a shortcut to get to it. You could go to tinyurl.com/Goodreads giveaway 2023. So again, that's tinyurl.com/Goodreads giveaway 2023. Of course, all one word run together there. So you can enter to win a free copy.
And this is only through
only
Kindle?
through good. It's only Kindle copies, yeah, and only through Goodreads.
I'm a hardback person.
And the hardback cover is only $9.99. It's not much more. The Kindle is $4.99. The hardback, or not hardback, the soft copy, because again, that's that's something I didn't discuss in the book, but I would think it's intuitive and common sense. A soft copy is obviously less expensive than a hardcover. So
Right.
I don't do the hardcovers. I want to keep the cost down, and most people do. Just like Stephen King's and that, again, that they've got the extra money and they're printing in bulk, that they can print hard copies that it doesn't cost that much more to do. And a lot of their fans, you know, just have traditional hard copies, so they buy their hard copy. But yeah, the soft copy is of course a way of keeping the cost of the book down. And I don't, you know, I don't really personally see much extra value in a hardcover other than the stupid paper sleeve you get with the hard copy. You know, what are you trying to stop bullets? What is, or you know,
I've
I mean,
I've seen movies that actually have done that, remember?
yeah.
That's a good one. So is there such a thing as being going too big?
I suppose so. Again, I mean, there's a market in, you know, for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got the next War and Peace 600-page book in you,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. But remember, especially with today's economy and money being tight, that cost to your customer then is reflected in the size of that book. It's going to be a $40 book, as opposed to like with Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You. I think we discussed this. I left out a dedicated mass shootings chapter. I left out a cyber terrorism chapter. You know, I left out a few things so that the book could come in at the 286 pages it is, and
I
at
remember that.
$20. Although, you know, if you go to Amazon, Amazon has it discounted from that MSRP of $20. As opposed to, you know, a $30 list price. I wanted to keep that price down for the reader, and why I put an introduction section in Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You that has links to other things you can find online that expound on some of the things in the book. So it's kind of like a movie DVD where you get extra materials.
Mm-hmm.
In Terror Strikes, you get extra links that you can go look at. So you're not charged for that content.
Okay.
Free
Well,
bonus.
yes, definitely. So basically, just to recap, you need to read the book first. Bottom line is you need to read the book, and this is where you're gonna have to start. Make sure you have an important message.
Most people aren't going to really know where to start. Although some, you know, again, some people have been, maybe like me, have been writing their whole life, but they don't really know. Some who haven't been don't know where to start. Others kind of know where to start, but can use more structure and help with what is their next step. And again, that's why this is a more broad book than all those competitive books you could look at. Rather than buying a book on writing, a book on publishing, and a book on marketing, 3 different books, you save money by buying my one book.
Yeah. So just to recap, so we get pretty much all of your key points out. Just make sure you have an important message. If you want a quick book, you can stick to children's books. Designate a time to write. And then there was a part where you said inspired, clean up your, I kind of missed that part.
Yeah. Dictate into your phone and email to yourself. If you're at the local store, if you're driving, please pull off to the side of the road, to do that, of course. If you're at dinner, excuse yourself to the bathroom, whatever. Dictate at that point your inspiration in an email to yourself, then cut and paste it and clean it up and then go from there. Yeah.
That's kind of like what I do with the podcast. It's like when I have a thought, I write it, but like you said, when you write it, then now you got tons of papers everywhere. So I kept a little notebook so that way I can, find the notebook. But when it comes down to the book, I keep Google Docs on there and I hit that marker so that way I can always, have the recording, send it to the text to the Google Docs and stuff. But just so we can, get the recap of where to get your book and where to get the free enter into the contest to get the free Kindle. Go ahead and give us that information before we close out.
Now again, I'll give my general website again, of course.
Okay.
josephmlenard.us. All right, and you could see it there, and there's information on entering the contest there too. Terrorstrikes.info. There's a page dedicated to the new book too. You can get information there. You could go to goodreads.com under browse the giveaways, but again, it's just easier than having to remember any and all that to write down tinyurl.com/Goodreads giveaway 2023 to get right to the page and be able to enter. As far as buying the book itself, now like Terror Strikes coming soon to a city near you, I have terrorstrikes.info website. I'm selling copies of that book direct, autographed copies, free shipping included, to as long as it's a U.S. address. And I will give your audience, if you use promo code INSIDER at checkout, 20% off the $20 list price. Plus, again, free shipping, whereas you're not going to get free shipping unless if you're an Amazon Prime member, like through Amazon. But of course, Amazon, you can find both books there. It may take a little more time because we're coming out of the holidays. It was supposed to be released on the 15th. There were delays. It didn't get on the system until the 29th of December. So it may take another week or two for it to start to show up at Barnes and Noble or Apple Books and, the other out of the way places, but it is definitely available on Amazon right now.
I never got a autograph copy. I'm just saying, I never got an autograph copy. And now that you said that, I feel kind of cheated because I was like, I never got an autograph copy. I ordered mine through Amazon.
Right. I try to tell people that all the time. I mean, that's great. I mean, you may save a little more money if Amazon has it marked down. It all depends. Amazon is funny. It all depends on when you catch them. If immediately when this show hits the air, 20 people go to Amazon, the price is going to go up because they're seeing an immediate hit on the book and increased demand. So it might go back to $20. But if you hit it at an odd time, you might get it for as low as $10. Whereas with terrorstrikes.info/buy, you've got the promise with the insider code, 20% off the list plus free shipping. You know what your cost will be up front. Of course, I'm leaving you to do the math. 10% would be $2, so 20% is $4. So that's $16 plus free shipping. Whereas now Amazon, if it's at $10, but they're charging you $5 to ship it, you're saving $1 and you're not getting an autographed copy, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I'll send you my address for my autographed copy. So listen, I love having you on the show. I'm going to be having another episode And I want, because I know you wrote the book, and there's an issue now, I guess, about guns and stuff. And a lot of people that I've spoke to that are entrepreneur, for some reason we always roll off the topic and it rolls into guns. And they were just like, it's very important as Americans that we have the right to have guns. And I was like, who can I talk to about this and the importance? Because, like I always tell people, I'm under a rock. So I really don't even, like, follow a lot of things. I'm just, tunnel vision focused on what I'm doing, or read what I want to read. And, because I feel like sometimes the news is so depressing, but I want to talk to somebody about the gun control and about the importance of having your right to have guns. So I know this kind of catching you off guard right now, but
Oh, hey, nope. I talk about this stuff on shows all the time. Obviously,
I know.
terror strikes coming soon to a city near you. There's obviously the issue of guns in that, and gun control is covered. But before I expound on that, it would make no sense for me to send you an autographed copy of Terror Strikes. But since I'm not selling copies of how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques direct, I don't have books lying around other than 5 proof copies. So not only I will send you an autographed copy of one of those, because like you said, you want a print copy anyway.
Yeah.
So I will send you an autographed copy. Plus, it'll be even more limited edition than anybody can get, because it'll be a proof copy. It says on the cover, not for resale. It's a proof copy. So you'll have one of only 5 that exist on the planet. How about that?
Oh my God, I feel so honored.
But yeah, as for guns, I'm on 15 different social media platforms, and a lot of the discussion, now obviously to promote the books, I do that, but a lot of the discussion, I've been involved in politics since 1978. I'm on my 6th decade of being involved in politics. I turned 60 now, so obviously I didn't get involved in politics coming out of the womb. 1978, I got involved. So there was only 2 years that decade, and we're only into the 3rd year of this decade, but 6 decades. And gun control failure is one of my pet peeves.
Ooh, okay, let's do it. I will email you and we will talk about our next schedule. And I just want to get everybody like excited, and everybody's going to want to know, well, what does this have to do with entrepreneur? It's your right to protect your business too. And that's why, and which is funny, because when I started this whole thing, I never wanted to carry guns until, like, you start being in the world and you're like, yeah, I need a gun. So I want to talk to someone about it.
Yeah, 2 quick things on that. You're right to go there, to protect your business. Terror strikes coming soon to a city near you. It's not just about terrorism. Sub-theme, general crime. It's on the rise. Look at your news every day. These raids on businesses to loot them in broad daylight while they're open. They're not breaking in the middle of the night to loot them anymore. You need to be able to protect yourself. And the second quick point, mass shooting deaths. And I think we discussed this the first show that we had together. The average number of people killed, where there is someone law-abiding, properly carrying lawfully a gun, 2.3 deaths on average. Where it's a gun-free slaughter zone, when you're waiting on the police, the average number of people killed, innocent people killed unnecessarily, 14.3 deaths. So those of you who want gun-free zones, you're for 12 more people being killed on average.
Okay, let's save all of this for the next show. Thank you guys for being on Some Real Shit Podcast. You have just heard Joseph Lenard. Go check out his book. It is exciting. I already got the first one, and now I am honorably the only person of 5 that are getting the the copy. So again, like, subscribe, review, hit the bell, put 5 stars, go get the book, check out the website. And Joseph, it's always a pleasure. I will email you all the information and time and my availability. And again, congratulations on getting this book out. You're awesome. I love it. This is the best. I feel
thank you
so
for
good.
those kind words. I really appreciate it.
Oh
And
yeah.
again, I really appreciate this. My 3rd time being